Hello everyone, this is Luke. Before we get started with the show today, I'd like to let you all know that I still have a couple spots open on my Panama tour this summer from June 14th to the 21st. It's with the Terra Loca Foundation, and all proceeds will go to disadvantaged girls in Sikkim, India. The tour is open to beginner and intermediate birders and will be aiming to get people good looks at and photo opportunities of a large array of tropical species, from keelbilled toucan to snowcap and golden-hooded tanager. More information and pictures will be linked in the podcast description, and you can reach out to my email at ldtbirds37@gmail.com to sign up. Anyways, on to the show. All right.
Classic start.
Yep. Welcome back, everybody, to the Back to Birding podcast. This is Patrick Higgins.
This is Luke Thompson. Welcome back to Birding.
We hope everyone had happy holidays. I know it was a good break for me, and I'm sure I can say the same for you, Luke.
Yeah, it was good. Got to, get a little time off.
Yeah.
Not as busy as the school year. Get some birding in. So.
Yeah. Did you do any traveling?
Nope. I think about the farthest I traveled was to Hiawassee Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Just didn't work with the schedule.
Yeah.
With work. So, what about you?
I did a lot of traveling. It was a very busy break. It was restful, but I went to Kentucky, spent a lot of time with extended family there, and my immediate family lives here in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, but my girlfriend's extended family lives in Alabama, so I hopped all around going to those three places. But
was it like a consecutive thing, or was it like I'm in Kentucky, then Nashville, then back in Kentucky, then Alabama, then Kentucky, then Nashville type thing?
It was a few days at each spot, luckily. So
that's good.
That helped out. But yeah, some fun birding in between.
What was the highlights?
I had a couple really exciting birds, actually. Both were around Nashville. I had a black-headed grosbeak, which was a lifer.
And I think less than 10 state records?
Yeah, around that. I think there was a big surge in the 70s. But yeah, for whatever reason. But yeah, I think that was potentially the first Davidson County record, which is Nashville. But that was just in somebody's backyard at their feeder, so that I didn't have to work too hard for that one. But a beautiful little bird, and I was very excited to get my bins on.
What is a black-headed grosbeak?
Man, I probably know less about this species than you do, honestly. The one we had was a juvenile/female, so it was relatively drab. There was a little bit of yellow on the shoulder, but overall just kind of brown and pale. But
yeah, so if you're an Eastern listener, which I'm sure most of you are, black-headed grosbeaks are the close relative to rose-breasted grosbeaks, which is a species that, at least here in Tennessee, we get pretty regularly in the spring and the fall. They breed a little bit in the mountains to the east of us, but they mostly breed farther north of Tennessee. And so they're related to cardinals, and they're related to tanagers, if you know those, or our tanagers, not true tanagers. Yeah. It's complicated stuff, but
story for another day.
Yeah, when I go to Panama and see real tanagers, we can talk about tanagers. Yep. Yeah, it's a species of bird related to cardinals. They have a massive thick bill. Rose-breasteds have a massive thick bill. It's pale.
All grosbeaks for that matter.
Yeah, that's grosbeak. And in fact, a lot of grosbeaks aren't even closely related. They just have big bills. So they're called grosbeaks. But the male rose-breasted grosbeak has sort of a black plumage on top with some white intermixed. That big pale bill, and then it's white underneath with a rose breast. Hence the name.
Beautiful bird.
And then the females are more brown and streaky overall. And then a black-headed grosbeak, which is super closely related, and they actually hybridize, I believe.
Yeah, the female of both species looks very similar. The underwing is yellow or there's a patch on the armpit that's yellow on a black-headed. That is the easiest way to quickly distinguish the two species, but they are very similar.
Yeah, and then the males are or the breeding males at least, are a stunning, like bright orange beneath and black head. And yeah. So, but yeah, that's a very good bird for the state. Another western species.
Yep. That was a lifer for me. So
congratulations.
Yeah, that was a nice little high five before Christmas. But also, I had a Harris's sparrow, which is one of the most beautiful sparrows that I think I've ever seen. But I sadly did not even get to see it.
I was about to say, you've never seen one.
But yeah, that is true. I got a 3-second, audio sighting. But so it had been reported at the spot where it had been seen that every evening, as soon as the sun was down and it was dark enough to where you couldn't actually see anything, that's when a big surge of white-throated and white-crowned sparrows started chipping, as well as the Harris's sparrow. And just so happens to be the case for whenever I found it, which was about a week ago now. It came out and got some identifiable call notes, and it was gone, and I never actually saw it. So hopefully in the future I can get a little bit of a cleaner sighting, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Hey, it's still a good bird.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen or heard one. So Harris's sparrows, they are, I believe, the only bird that breeds exclusively in Canada, which is an interesting little fact there.
That is a fun fact.
And
interesting.
They winter sort of Great Plains. We get a couple every year in Tennessee, in the western portion of the state. There's been a few records around our area, but none in this county, in Hamilton County. That's one that I think could easily show up. It's a Great Plains breeder, or not breeder, winters in the Great Plains and breeds up in Canada. And it's in this genus of sparrows, Zonotricha, I believe. I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation. Zonos.
Yeah.
And so many of you will be familiar with the white-throated sparrow, or the white-crowned sparrow. It's in that same genus. Again, sparrows are brown with some patterning on the face. I think they're beautiful, but a lot don't.
Yeah.
So
whenever you start to really pay closer attention to the sparrow species, they quickly draw you in.
Yeah. Someone asked me what my opinion on the most beautiful bird in the world was, and in the top 3 was LeConte sparrow,
Yeah.
I don't think LeConte is top 3 in the world now that in retrospect. Thinking, or maybe it was birds that I had seen. That was the question. But yeah, Harris's sparrow, and they're massive compared to the other Zonotrichas, apparently. I've never seen one, but again, apparently they are just hunks of sparrows, and they have this sort
probably
of
similar to the white crown, how they just kind of seem to dwarf other sparrows.
Apparently, Austin was saying, this is Austin's guy from Idaho. We were just saw him chasing a bird that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, but he was saying that Harris's sparrows even dwarf white crowns.
Wow.
And Harris's sparrows have sort of a nondescript face. It's more like a pale, tan brown in the winter, gray in the summer. And in the breeding, the adults have a black throat and a gray face, versus in the non-breeding, they have a tan face but still have that black throat, and then they also have a black crown, both in breeding and non-breeding. And then they have a pink bill, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they're a beautiful bird, really a striking sparrow.
Yeah, I really want to see one, but hey, Congratulations.
Yeah, me too. I also want to see one. But I'll take a heard one. So
A heard one?
Yeah.
Good English.
Thanks.
Um, yeah. So, any other birding over break?
I tried to do a little push to get my year list for the state up a little bit right before the end of the year, and got my first state barn owls, which were
Congratulations.
really cool. I was very happy about that. So got a couple pictures I'm happy with, but whenever you do find those guys on a day roost, it's really special to get to sit there with them. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was great. And I know you had a run-in with barn owls as well.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second. I know we had a listener ask about just like what the lists are in general. Someone who's a beginner. So lists are just the list of species that we have. So that may be in the year. It can go on multiple different levels. But what he's talking about, the list of species he's seen in the state for 2023.
Yeah.
But you can go that life list in the world, so every single species you've seen for your life in the world, and down to county level. So that's what the lists are for those that may not know. And yeah, but I did have a great experience with barn owl over the break. So every year I start out. This will be a bit of just about the Hiawassee CBC.
Yeah.
So every year I start out the year by going up to Hiawassee Wildlife Refuge, which is one county north of us, and about an hour or so from us.
Yeah,
a little under an hour, I believe. And so every year I go up there for January 1st and pretty much bird the whole day. And we are actually allowed to walk on the refuge proper, which people normally aren't allowed to during the season when the cranes are there. But for the CBC, we get to walk the refuge. And so it's a relatively low effort count. It's not like extremely organized or anything. It's sort of just a few people go out, have a little day of birding, and get a few birds. But I was like, I want to get a lot of birds. And so I went up the night before, got there a little before the sun was setting, and got to watch all the cranes come into roost. I had 78, I believe, turkey vultures over the Tennessee River, or maybe it was the Hiawassee. It was right where they converge, which is a lot of turkey vultures. Normally, it's, in my experience at least, it's black vultures that outnumber the turkeys.
Yeah, I think in our little pocket of Tennessee, it's definitely the case.
Yeah.
But those numbers definitely fluctuate across the state, and I think for sure.
Yeah, because, I mean, where I'm, look out the window right now, give me 2 seconds. And I just looked at 100 black vultures because they are roosting on a tower that's like less than a quarter mile from us right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting to see that. Just the opposite of what I'm normal to down here at Baylor. And then I had a northern red-tailed hawk, which was sick. Only I think my third in East Tennessee. So that's a subspecies of the red-tailed hawk. That's one of our most common hawk species, if not the most common. And pretty much everyone knows what a red-tailed hawk is. And so there's a bunch of subspecies. It's a little bit messy. A lot of it I don't think is actually fully described to science, and it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's tough, but Mark Green is definitely one of the best at knowing all those.
Yeah, Mark Green is a West Tennessee birder who I'm pretty sure listens, right?
Yeah.
So shout out Mark Green. So yeah, he's pretty interested in that, and he sees a lot of those subspecies, and
it's his favorite bird, actually, the red-tailed hawk.
Not surprised. I'm sure it inspires a lot of us to look at the subspecies, because seeing those reports is what did it for me. So I saw a red-tailed hawk, and I was like, wow, that doesn't look like our normal eastern. Those birds that breed around here, and most of the wintering birds we get. And so it was a northern, which is a little bit darker. So red-tailed hawks have this band of brown color on a white belly, or most of ours around here do. They get dark morphs out west, which are all dark. But with a northern, that band of dark color is much thicker and more pronounced. So, and then they have northerns also typically have a dark throat, and then they have color dribbling down the throat. I don't like that way of describing it, but
Dribbling.
you've heard that, right?
I have not.
Really?
That's the first time. Yep.
I think like dribbles or something. I don't know, because I guess it looks like it's dripping out of the mouth. I don't know. I don't love it, but basically just some brown markings going into the white.
And what is that subspecies?
Northern Abieticola. According to Tim Lynn's, people up in New York call them beaties, which I love.
Beaties. It's a little easier to say.
Yeah. So, and then they have a more marked up underwing compared to your normal Eastern Borealis red-tailed hawk. So that was pretty cool. And then that was one of my last birds of the year. And then I slept that night in the parking lot at Hiawassee in the car, and actually got a fantastic night of sleep. And cranes never stop calling, by the way, through the night. There was...
Sandhill crane is the loudest bird in the world.
Really? Like scientifically?
Like scientifically. Yeah. I'm surprised you slept well. But
I'm lucky to be a deep sleeper. So, and I love the sound of cranes. It's kind of magical. We should probably play a little clip of it in here for those that haven't heard it.
It's a little scary, but it's also magical whenever you're there with them.
Yeah, I love it. And so, I mean, there's several thousand cranes. So it's pretty loud.
And occasionally, there's something a little bit more special mixed in.
One time ever. There's never been a common crane there.
Yeah.
Which is shocking to me. But
whooping cranes.
Oh, whooping cranes. Yeah. And I believe I have a three crane checklist from there when I was 6. When there was a hooded crane, and I didn't know the hooded crane was there.
Oh, really?
But I remember seeing it, and because they were talking about it and showing it to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then a hooded crane, which was the first record in the States, I believe, or one of the first records in the States. And then
holy cow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then whooping crane, which was formerly more regular, still 1 or 2 every year, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then obviously sandhill cranes. But
yeah. Wow.
Whooping cranes are an endangered species, maybe even critically endangered. I'm not sure.
I don't know that any of the ones we have regularly migrating are actually countable. I think
they may have decided that they were. I don't know.
Really? I know that the ones that migrate through the Port Aransas, Texas area are. But
those are the populations that that's like the population that's self-sustaining.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the ones that we have at Wheeler National Wildlife Refuge and here at Hiawassee National Wildlife Refuge, if it's national, I don't know.
I'm not sure,
but I don't think those are self-sustaining. So
yeah, they may have been at a point and they called them.
I don't know.
I feel like I've had that conversation where someone's like, "Yeah, you can count it," but I don't know.
I feel like it would probably show up on your life list, but I don't know that it would, to what extent it would be contributed to data. But that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I mean, yeah, those birds, they were trying to start a population and failed.
Mm-hmm. It's the largest crane in the world, right?
One of them, at least. It's a massive white bird with black wingtips and some red on the head. It's really cool.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, but I went to sleep that night with cranes. There's a beautiful sunset, and then woke up at midnight with some fireworks going off because midnight on New Year's Eve, or I guess New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And sandhill cranes were the first bird that I had for the year, which I've been doing this count since 2016 or 2017. I've always wanted them to be the first bird of the year and always failed because I drive up and the count normally starts around 8 a.m. And then the first bird always ends up being like ring-billed gull or like a rock pigeon or crow or something.
Yeah.
Song sparrow one year because the car broke down on the side of the road. It's a story for another day.
Typical.
Yeah, so that, like, they were calling when I woke up, and it was like, crane, first bird of the year, yes. And then about 20 seconds later, a great horned owl was going off right outside my car. So that was a great way to start around midnight. Did a
Nice.
little stationary checklist there, listening.
Great horned owl was my first bird of the year as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's up at Chris Agee's house. Yeah.
Sweet.
But I didn't quite have sandhill cranes there.
Yeah. And had the great horned owl, went back to sleep, woke up at 4 a.m., made some coffee, and tried to force myself to eat breakfast, but I wasn't that hungry. And I didn't have a high-quality breakfast, so I just sort of went off and started looking for owls. And I already had great horn, and the second owl I had was barn, so I have never had a barn owl in this area of the state. It's a bird that surely breeds pretty regularly and probably breeds in Hamilton County, but there hasn't been a solid record. Well, actually, there was a Jan Jacobson record back in 2019 maybe, but maybe 2020. Flew in front of his car like downtown type thing, like crazy.
What?
But there's still pellets and whitewash apparently up in Snow Hill Road, so we should go out there.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, barn owls are a species of bird that's in every continent except for Antarctica, I believe.
I think that's right. Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're in Australia, but they are actually not a true owl. They are in their own family, the barn owls.
Tydo.
Yeah, Tydo. And yeah, they're a pretty cool bird. Sort of pale, ghostly, white underneath.
It's like a toasted marshmallow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine a toasted marshmallow, but if it was an owl.
Yeah.
And that's barn owl.
Just let your imagination run with that, because it's pretty accurate. But
Yeah. So they typically roost in either silos or old barns, but silos are pretty reliable places for them. And I've heard that they like to be by fields and ponds, and there is a fantastic field next to a pond. And I looked at that, and I've always looked at that, and there's got to be barn owl in that.
Was there a silo?
Yeah, there's a silo right next to the pond and the field.
Oh man, it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, so we've always looked in it and never seen it, but I just played the tape when I walked up, and originally I didn't hear any response, so I was like, guess it's not here. Turned on my car, and it flushed, and I was like, oh my god, it's a barn owl. And then I just continued down the road doing tape for screech and barred owl. Got barred owl pretty easily, unlike with the Chattanooga Christmas bird count.
Yeah.
Did a couple tries for northern saw-whet owl, but without a method that I have recently learned from Victor Stoll, that is apparently the best method to get them. He's been getting them pretty reliably.
Him and Ruben both, yeah.
Yeah, so
they're I think maybe unofficially, but on a really solid mission to find a bunch of northern saw-whet owls in their part of the state this winter. So
yeah,
and they're having a lot of luck, which is
a lot of luck. I know
exciting.
Victor tried in Hardin County and failed, but that was low country, so maybe that had something to do with it. But yeah, the habitat actually looks fantastic up there for saw-whet. So I was hoping, but no luck. There's a bunch of really thick cedars and some fields, so
yeah, I'm sure long-eared is possible as well.
Yeah, we'll speak about that in a little bit too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played that tape. I got the bird come in, but I didn't really see it super well. But I identifiable looks, and then I kept driving. I got barred owl. I failed to get screech owl and saw-whet owl. But on the way back, I was just driving back on the same road, and there was a raptor on the wire. And it was the barn owl, and let me get within 10 feet eye level before it flew away.
Oh my goodness.
It was insane.
That's once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was wild. And then I played the call hoping it would come back in after it flushed. just once. I didn't want to stress it out because I already played a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sort of flew over my head and gave a screech. That was really, really, really cool.
Jeez.
And then I proceeded to go get screech owl. So I got a 4-owl sweep, which is pretty good.
Wow. Yeah.
Probably the first time that's been done on the Hiwassee count.
Maybe so. I'd believe it.
Because no one really owls for that count, really. But yeah, I tried and failed to get woodcock on what is typically a very reliable spot, but it was windy, which wasn't ideal.
Yeah, that makes it hard.
And yeah, I've never missed them at that spot before, but I missed woodcock for both the Chat and the Hiwassee CBC. Probably doesn't mean anything, but
I wonder if we've been having them very much in this area at all this winter.
I know Tim Lynn's got them just displaying at the typical spot.
Really?
Here. Yeah. They normally normally I can get them displaying. I think it was really just for both cases a weather thing. So a little bit of rain, which doesn't help, and then wind, because normally I get them displaying by December 15th there's a spot about a mile down the road here on Pineville Road that has them super regularly. And also tonight the weather is fantastic, and that place looks fantastic for solid owl, so I'm probably gonna give it a shot.
It seems like a good idea.
And then I probably needed to go do homework, but but yeah, that happened, and then I pulled into the Hiwassee lot while it was still dark, and off in the distance I heard a single low hoot. I don't know why it didn't I also had heard that low hoot when I was making my coffee in the morning, but I didn't both times it didn't register as anything interesting. I was just like, that doesn't sound like our normal owls. Oh well, I'm gonna keep going. And then a couple hours later it came to me, that came from a thick stand of cedars right next to a beautiful field.
Oh jeez.
Which is perfect long-eared owl habitat.
Yeah.
And long-eared owl is a just great bird. It's like a great horned owl, pretty much in appearance, maybe a little more crisp, and but a lot smaller. And so, very, very, very difficult bird to get.
Yeah, they have one of the most extraordinary camouflages ever.
Yeah.
I've never seen one, but from the people who have, that I've talked to about them, they say that they have looked at one and lost it because it was so well camouflaged. But occasionally you can get them in these thick cedar stands, like he's saying. I think there's only 1 or 2 historical records in our area. Do you know of more than that, or?
Nope.
Yeah.
It's one that I really want to find.
Yeah, that's
this winter.
That's a dream bird. That would be great.
So a lot of poking in cedar stands will probably happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic bird. That I poked in that cedar stand later that day, and I didn't see anything, but it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Man.
I found one recording of them from the States in the winter at all, I'm pretty sure. So they don't call.
They're not very vocal in winter.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly. But, doesn't discount it. But, who knows? It was a low hoot that was not a great horned or barred or anything, so a little painful. But
yeah, you'll remember that one for sure.
Yeah. But, went through the day. Less ducks than normal, which has been apparently a trend.
Yeah, I just saw today, actually, that Tennessee National Wildlife Refuge had a big surge of waterfowl.
Really? With cold weather coming in?
Yeah, with the cold front. So maybe we'll get a push of them here soon.
Yeah. The cold front coming in should be good waterfowl numbers. A Ross's goose showed up farther north in the county. I haven't checked the roosting Canadas here thoroughly recently.
Yeah, Ross's is a little bit less frequent in East Tennessee than West. considerably less frequent. But
Yeah, Ross's goose is this tiny, very, very cute, all white goose
yeah.
with a bill that looks like it just ran into a wall. And it's just like a tiny little triangle of a bill. They're really cute, honestly.
Yeah, they are. They are. I think a bird that needs some recognition is one that has been very kind to you this winter for,
Oh yeah.
what, a month now? Or almost?
About 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So, set the scene here. I was at work, or I hadn't started my shift yet, but I was at High Point, just getting some stuff done. I was working on creating tapes for my of Panamanian birds, so I can learn those bird calls.
Yeah. Can you give us a great PO2?
I think you're better at that. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I genuinely can't make the noise.
I want to hear your best shot, and then I'll
Okay.
play the noise through my phone.
Let's see. How was that?
Let's.
Yeah, so you have that to look forward to, haunting your dreams in Panama.
Yeah, if I find one, if I found one on a day roost, apparently they're like massive
Holy
birds.
cow.
That would be
Yeah, talk about camouflage. Those guys are
insane.
just
They're
dead sticks.
They're nocturnal birds that are like evolved to look like dead sticks, and when they're roosting, and they actually they have a little notch in their eyelids so they can have their eyes closed and still see during the day. And yeah, they're like dead sticks on a branch, and it's almost invisible. They're kind of creepy looking.
Yeah. Are
honestly.
they goat suckers or nightjars?
I think they're in the same order, but a different family. Let me see. So they are in the order Caprimulgiformes, but they're in Nyctibidae is the family. And then, so let's say like our whippoorwill is in Caprimulgidae is the family in the order Caprimulgiform. So it's the same order, but a different family. So related, but not.
Yeah, not too close.
Not too close. So, but anyways, I was working on my making this recording, and I looked down on my phone, and through Birding app, which by the way, everyone download Birding app. You can go to birdingapp.com. This is a great app made by the one and only Tim Lenz.
Yep.
And so
it's genuinely a great resource.
It's fantastic. So I looked down on my phone, and I got a notification through Birding app that said a list of birds from Baylor School. And I saw Cedron, which is the first bird I saw, and I was like, oh, it's got to be Baylor. It's probably the only place in the county that's going to get a Cedron over winter. And yeah, and then I looked, the next bird down was spotted towhee, which has been seen in the state 12 times, or 11 times before this bird.
Yep.
And
so just about as rare as your ash-throated flycatcher. About exactly as rare.
About exactly as rare, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
They do hybridize with the eastern towhees, so I'm sure there's a couple records back in the history of the state that are not pure.
Yeah.
I think I've seen actually a picture that was like, that's white at the base of the primaries, which by the way would indicate a hybrid with eastern towhee, which is another species of towhee that's super, super common here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I got this notification, and I had to clock in.
Yeah.
It was 1:19. I remember the exact time. I had to clock in at 2 p.m. And
so it might confuse some listeners that you got a notification of a bird seen at Baylor when you were not at Baylor. So
that confused me. I was like, who is this guy? It turns out his name is Will Johnson, nice guy from Florida. Just graduated from Dartmouth, I believe. And
heck.
yeah. So great birder, and he has family up here. Actually, one of his uncles is a guy named Nick Boehm, who is my thesis research advisor here at Baylor, which was a wild connection. And so he's able to get on campus, and he was just birding it, and he stumbled upon a spotted towhee, which is
Goodness,
just crazy. So 12 state record, farthest east record in the state. I believe the first record for East Tennessee.
Wow.
But I got the record or the report at 1:19,
Yeah.
and I had to clock in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was at work, and it's about a 10-minute drive, depending on how fast you're going.
So probably 6 minutes for you.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. And I walked up to my supervisor, and I was like, please, can I be 30 minutes late?
Yeah.
And she let me be 30 minutes late. Thank goodness.
I don't know how I would persuade my superior to go let me chase a bird. Do you have any tips for that for our listeners?
Have really chill supervisors.
That's number one.
Yeah, that literally, they're just super nice, and it wasn't super busy. We had enough staff. It was just, all those things. I was like,
Yeah.
So she was just like, yeah, it's fine.
The stars aligned.
Yeah. And so I was able to get out there, and yeah, the power line cut was pretty. It's on this power line cut in the backside of campus. Actually, I rarely go back to that area for birding. I normally go back there because a little beyond that, there is a huge amount of zigzag salamanders, which, pretty cool. I'm like a salamander
What
guy.
do those look like?
So there's 3 color morphs, 3-ish. It's more like 2. It's 2 of them kind of blend into each other.
Yeah.
But they are a species in the genus Plethodon. So think slimy salamander, that genus. So they don't really need a creek or anything, but they like, according to Ben at least. So if this is wrong, we can blame Ben Holt for that. They like areas typically that are steeper and then more moist. That's like they are a salamander. They're lungless, and this particular salamander is at least. And so, yeah, the habitat is just perfect back there for them. And so they're about, I don't know, maybe a small normal size salamander, a few inches long, or like, I don't know, this big. How big would this be?
3.5 inches long.
Roughly in that range. And so they have striped and unstriped morphs. So the unstriped morphs are pretty much a dark gray brown all over, and then the striped morphs are pretty colorful. So they can be like really deep bright red, or like an orangey
Wow.
red, all the way up into bright yellow. So they're pretty cool salamanders.
That is cool.
But yeah. Yes.
So instead of zigzag salamanders,
This time it was a spotted towhee, but I
Wow.
went out into the cut, flushed sparrows, but no towhees up, and I was like pishing, and no response. So I was like, I have maybe 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh Jesus!
What am I gonna do here? I walked up a little bit of bushwhacking up the side of the cut, sort of in the forest too, because that makes it easier, and got up to a point where I was like, that looks like there's going to be towhees hiding, just some thicker tangles. So towhees are a species of large sparrow, and they're pretty skulky, and so they like these thick tangly areas. And so yeah, I went up there, I was like, that looks right. And in my last ditch effort, I played a little bit of mobbing sparrow tape, some angry sparrow sounds. I heard eastern towhees calling, but no spotted responded. And then in came a couple of towhees. One of them was the spotted. Not giving eastern calls, by the way, for those that are like, that's a hybrid. We've heard it call. It's a spotted, solid. Yeah. It could have maybe a hint of eastern genes in it somewhere, but there's like
generations back.
It's pure enough to call it a spotted, in my opinion, and with people I've talked to it about. So yeah, female spotted towhee, but I only got like a 1 or 2 second look, and then it flushed back when it saw me.
I imagine some expletives were released.
Yeah, there were a couple people down at the base of the cut, and I said something along the lines of, we'll bleep this and post, but something along the lines of "Holy, that's it, y'all come up here," and
Oh my goodness.
they were, no one else saw it that day. It was just me and the
Dang.
original finder. And then we went back out in the morning, a whole crew of people. No one saw it. We heard it. I think, in all honesty, and I was part of the problem with this, there was too much pitching going on where birds were just ending up not responding.
Yeah.
And then there was some tape being played. And
because towhees are usually one of the most responsive, at least our easterns are extremely responsive.
The spotted came up to the pitching when it was first found, but I think it just, so many people, and there was a lot of people talking and crashing around, and it got heard, and that was it, and it didn't get seen that day, and that was Christmas Eve, and that day I was like, this is not sustainable. So many people are going to want to see that. And then I got inspired by Ruben and Victor Stoll, who a couple years back put out seed and had a spotted towhee consistently coming to that seed. After it was found, they put out seed in that area. And so I was like,
they found the bird, then put the seed instead of the other way around, which is how I figure most people usually find birds.
yeah.
But.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it out. And so I drove over to Walmart, got a bag of black oil sunflower seed, and just spread it along this trail. So the power line cut in this area, this trail cuts the woods and then straight into a power line cut and then back into the woods. And it's right at the base of in the valley of two hills in that power line cut. And so that spread it along the trail where the shorter grass was, and then just left. I don't think anyone went back that day. Next day was Christmas. Celebrated the whole Christmas things, and I was like, all right, it's enough time with my family. I'm going to go out and look for some birds for a little bit.
The real Christmas spirit in there.
Yeah. And literally the first bird I put my binoculars on when I walked to the cut was the female spotted towhee.
Oh,
Great
that's
looks.
exciting.
And so it flushed up. I walked back, tucked myself in the woods, and then it came back down within 10 minutes. And yeah, it was crazy. It was amazing. And so, yeah.
And you've consistently had seed out there ever since.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we just got done chasing that bird again. I had not had a chance to go see it, and
yes,
it was a lifer for me. So I had just added another lifer about an hour ago. So.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, very exciting. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will Johnson.
Yeah. So, well, for the next week, I was a little bit, I would say, over generous with my accepting people wanting to chase and be like, yeah, and very flexible with my times, which for a day or two is good. But after a few days, it got really exhausting, honestly, walking to the cut and then back and then to the cut, and
Yeah.
So I learned my lesson and scheduled specific walks. And
this only has to happen because it's on Baylor's private campus. So
so like for a normal rare bird, that's fine. But
it's
Baylor's
almost like a yard bird for you in a way. It's like
you
have to let people in your house.
Yeah, I probably am on campus more than I'm at my house.
Yeah.
Because I literally am on campus pretty much 7 days a week, 12 hours average, 10 to 12 hours. It's a lot of time on campus. But
school pride.
See, the thing is, I don't have like the typical school spirit.
Yeah.
But I love this place.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't love football.
Yeah, that's usually not what you see in the high school movies.
Yeah. It's like, I love this place for the birds. Yeah. But
that's funny.
Yeah, it's like you have to be with me. That's what the guards have told me. And consistently, honestly, people break that rule. So if you are a birder in the Chattanooga area and you see a bird on Baylor's campus, like reported, just email me, man. Most people are good. The vast majority of people are good. But there's a few people that do come on that give it a bad rep. And it's Yeah. I have guards talk to me with relative regularity, and I really don't want to have to hide birds. So
Yeah.
if you are a birder who lives in the Chattanooga area that ever wants to see a bird on Baylor's campus, just email me. It's super simple, and it keeps me out of trouble, keeps you out of trouble, makes the guards' lives easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But I had to pretty much be what I've been saying is an unpaid guide for about a week, which is good experience for me, but
It is. It's good prep.
It was a little bit exhausting for
Well, I imagine the exhaustion will only increase on your Panama guiding.
in a way, but I think what made this exhausting is it was repetition of the same thing, and as birders go, yes, I like rarities, but I more and more tend to like to appreciate, like, I don't care about my lists as much anymore, except for the campus list.
Yeah.
I love my campus list, but like state list, county list, I don't really care at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't chase rarities unless it's something where I like feel like I want to like study it a lot of the times. Like I don't know, like with the Hudsonian Godwit, I'd only seen one or two of those, so but like with stuff like a Ross's goose, I've spent a good amount of time with Ross's geese.
Right.
But I don't know, it sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, this whole like obsessive listing chasing thing.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. So this is slightly hypocritical, but I think there's something just unfulfilling in a way about this obsessive chase for rarities without appreciating the bird for what it is and without appreciating the common birds.
Yeah, that's kind of always been my philosophy on the issues. If birds just become a number, like I think they've lost their value, And like if you're just chasing birds to have your life list or your state list or your county list go up a tick, I don't know. That's just my opinion. And not everyone has to agree with that, of course. But
I think it's so much more fulfilling if you just spend time. And if you do come across a rare bird or you chase a rare bird, instead of looking at it and ticking it, study it. And like, I don't know, something that struck me at the ancient Merlet chase was I went with my friend Claire, and we were pretty much the only two people like asking questions like why is it here? What will these effects? And I'm sure some people had them in their head. And this is not a full knock on birders or anything, but there's a lot of this like obsession with the list more than anything else, which I think discounts the birds themselves and makes the whole hobby unfulfilling. It makes it more like a sport when it's like that.
I think it's a little bit of a balance, because competition does drive conservation
for sure,
and we need these birds to have habitat and resources conserved. So in a way we do want the competition, but we also want the appreciation that we've grown to have for these individual birds, and the behavior of certain species, and even like taking time to watch a vagrant or any bird, instead of just getting a glance of it. If you sit down with it and really study it, you can learn more about other birds of that family, or just birds in general that might assist you in looking for birds in the future. So,
and I mean, it's just interesting to know. Yeah. I don't know.
And some of the best birders that you'll ever meet are people that spend the most time with the birds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. It got to a point where it was like I kept seeing the same just desire to see rarity without any appreciation. It felt like with a lot of the people, which is, I mean, no knock to them, really. It's natural, and I understand it. I used to be exactly that, but it got a little exhausting to be around after a week. All that to say, it was fantastic. It is fantastic to have a spotted towhee on campus. Like, it's pretty incredible to see that bird.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the motives of different hobbyists.
Yeah.
Because I've heard this from other guides as well, that they might find a super rare bird in their respective region for their group, but it's not as pretty or outstanding as something else, and so people that might be more interested in photography are inherently going to be less interested. So
I've heard a story like that with I think it was Charlie from Naturally Adventurous. That's, for me, my favorite birding podcast, I would say, or one of them. It's up there. And he was in, I can't remember, I guess he was in Borneo, because it was Bornean ground cuckoo, and which is, the ground cuckoos are the like holy grail of birding, essentially. They're impossible to see, a lot of them, and just a lot the pretty birds, but just something about they're mythical. They're super cool, big, just like roadrunner-ish birds, I guess, because roadrunners are cuckoos. They're a little bit bigger and heftier, but he was guiding a group of photographers, and they heard it in the distance, and he couldn't try and go for it because the photographers, the light wasn't good. So yeah, it's interesting what drives.
And like, no knock to the photographers. It's it's not their interest. So it's just a matter of conflicting interests in some of in the field sometimes.
And the same thing goes, no knock to people who are just obsessing over their lists. It's just for someone who doesn't, besides my campus list, which I'm trying to get a little bit better at. It's probably past the point of healthy obsession. But sometimes it just could be a little bit exhausting, but it was cool, and it was cool to get that experience. And at this point, I think I have failed to show, or not failed to show, a single person the bird now that you've gotten it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think everyone has been satisfied with their free guide.
Yeah. I accept tips in the form of food or money.
And gasoline.
Yeah. I drink the gasoline. No. It fuels me. It's like caffeine. And then I also so there was Cedron and Martian this December on campus, which is good. Got to see both of those. If they're still there, I'm not sure. That we've had some rain and the water levels have been going up. So I'm not sure if they're still there. I'd be surprised if the Cedron is. Maybe it pushed out into a little bit more different habitat. And just waited it out, but I'm not sure if they're still there. But got those, and then I was talking to Will Johnson, the guy who found the towhee, and he was saying back down in Florida they just worked the yellow rump flocks, and there's massive yellow rump flocks on Baylor's campus. Like I reported 140 the other day, and there's probably double that or something. Like, no effort put into counting. It's just ridiculous how many yellow rumps there are. So I've been working those flocks a little bit, and I got a white-eyed vireo, which is a very common breeding bird. It's really a beautiful bird, actually, if you sit down to appreciate it. Yellowy overall, green flanks, gray head, and they have yellow spectacles and a white eye, as the name implies.
Hence the name.
Yeah, and that was the first record for Hamilton County in the winter, which is pretty incredible. They breed; they're really common breeders, but yeah. So that was cool to see.
Yeah.
So,
and that is just another incentive to sit down and study the birds a little bit more.
I agree.
Like, it's not necessarily the most fun to stare at yellow-rumped warblers for hours, but it does give you a much greater chance to find the gold in between,
Also, I have been enjoying. I found a little spot, a little bit down in a little bit of a low spot. There's a loop of a trail on campus where most of these, I wouldn't say most. There's so many yellow rumps on campus, but a lot of these yellow rumps are, because there's a good amount of privet with the berries that they can eat. And I went off trail, sort of into a low spot in the middle, and there's an opening, and I just have spent some time just sitting there, and like, it's kind of cool to see both how the yellow rumps behave and then how like the whole mixed flock dynamic, just like sort of look at that like and see what is feeding where, how they're feeding, and stuff like that. And like noticing the differences between individual yellow rumps been actually honestly pretty cool. I've been enjoying
that's awesome.
it.
Yeah,
So.
I know that was one of the first major ecological studies in the 1950s.
Really?
Was, 5 different species of warbler. And the aim of the study was to find out what portion of the canopy that the different warbler species were occupying, because there was really no competitive nature between the species, but they all occupied the same habitat throughout their entire migration and breeding grounds. So, and one of those was yellow-rumped warbler. So definitely fun to see how these birds interact with each other.
Yeah, like orange-crowned warbler versus yellow rump was interesting. Orange crown's always kind of working less actively, low to the ground, sort of more methodical poking. Yellow rumps all over the place, fly catching. Yeah. Sometimes they'll sit and be eating berries and they'll fly catch. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Yep, very neat.
Also got a gray catbird in that same area. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's another one of those that is a late bird now.
Yeah, that's closely related to a mockingbird, and yeah, they breed here, pass through in migration, but only a couple winter records, though they're probably much more regular than people really appreciate, just because, again, you got to sort of work the forest, which is maybe not the most interesting thing to work during the winter, but I love being in the forest, so, no problem with it.
Absolutely. Well, I reckon it's about time to wrap up.
Yeah.
We've had some good birding the past few days, and we have some good birding ahead of us, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, so would owl.
Yep. We are going to really try and hit the owls hard this winter. So
yeah, we set ourselves, I guess we should tell the people, we set ourselves a goal to see, 15 species of sparrows and 7 species of owls in the state of Tennessee this winter.
Yeah.
So,
and since the new year,
we've seen, I believe, 12 species of sparrows.
I don't know, but we do have Harris's and spotted towhee,
and Vesper sparrow. I got Vesper sparrow, which is
like a couple good rarities there. And we have a really good tip on saw wet.
Thank you, Victor Stoll.
Yeah, we went up to the north portion of our county and even into a neighboring county, and
on accident.
Yeah, and had a call in return to some playback we were doing, but
it was windy.
It was very windy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but
habitat was perfect.
Perfect habitat, and good chance that it was our target bird. But we're gonna keep looking
at it.
So.
And I'll probably give it a shot here. I might snag some dinner on campus, and then give the saw-whet a good old try. There's some habitat not too far from here, so fingers crossed I get this first Hamilton County record. I can finally have a county first to my name.
Yep.
But yeah.
So some exciting sparrowing and owling ahead of us.
Yeah, we'll keep y'all posted.
Absolutely. But yep, we hope y'all had a good New Year.
Yeah.
And
happy 2024.
Yeah, we'll see y'all on the next one.
All right, I'll see y'all.